In a shocking international twist, Paris police have officially confirmed the arrest of the men believed to have carried out the assassination of former South African Ambassador Nathi Mthethwa. But what has stunned investigators and sent political shockwaves across both France and South Africa is the identity of the person who allegedly paid the killer. According to sources close to the French investigation, the suspect, a 38-year-old man of Eastern European descent, was apprehended during a late-night operation in a Paris suburb following weeks of coordinated surveillance by French intelligence. Authorities say the arrest was made after new forensic evidence linked him directly to the hotel room where Mthethwa was found dead earlier this year. But the true bombshell came during interrogation. The suspect allegedly confessed that he was hired for the job and that the money came from a South African account tied to a high-ranking political figure. French officials have reportedly shared this information with Pretoria through diplomatic channels, triggering what one insider described as an immediate state of panic within the ANC leadership. Early details indicate that the payment was made through a series of offshore transactions routed through multiple accounts to obscure the origin. French investigators traced the funds back to a consulting firm based in Dubai, a company that, according to leaked documents, had previous business ties with the former South African cabinet minister. A French law enforcement source said this wasn't a random act of violence. This was a well-funded, well-coordinated operation. The money trail tells the real story. Nathi Mthethwa's sudden death in Paris months ago was initially dismissed as a medical emergency, but inconsistencies in the autopsy report, missing security footage, and the disappearance of key witnesses raised serious questions. French police quietly reopened the case after receiving intelligence that Mthethwa had planned to meet with an anonymous source to discuss sensitive information tied to corruption and illicit financial flows involving South African officials. Now, with the killer in custody and the alleged payam's identity being investigated, the pieces of this political puzzle are finally starting to fit together and they paint a deeply disturbing picture. Sources close to the investigation claim that Mthethwa's killer received a six-figure advance payment weeks before the ambassador's death. Even more startling, the second half of the payment, which was supposed to be transferred after the commission, was intercepted by French authorities just hours after the suspect's arrest. Investigators are now examining whether the money originated from state-linked accounts, potentially implicating individuals still serving within South Africa's government structure. If confirmed, it would mark one of the most serious diplomatic scandals in recent history. Back home, the news has hit like a political earthquake. Parliament erupted within hours of the French announcement, with opposition parties demanding that President Cyril Ramaphosa immediately address the nation and authorize a full-scale inquiry. EFF leader Julius Malema, visibly furious during an impromptu press briefing, declared, "We warned them that didn't die by accident. Now the truth is coming out. If a senior figure in our government paid for this killing, they must be arrested no matter who they are." Social media exploded within minutes of the story breaking. Hashtags like #WhoPaidTheKiller and #JusticeFromDeath began trending nationwide as South Africans voiced outrage and disbelief. Some called it the biggest betrayal in democratic history, accusing the government of protecting murderers behind diplomatic immunity. Investigators in both Paris and Pretoria are now pursuing one key question. Why wasn't Mthethwa targeted? Multiple reports suggest that before his death, Mthethwa had gathered evidence linking millions in misused foreign development funds to shell companies controlled by politically connected figures. He allegedly told close associates he was preparing to go public, a move that could have embarrassed several influential names back home. One intelligence analyst commented, "If what the suspect said is true, then this wasn't just a hit. It was a silencing operation. Someone wanted to make sure that never spoke again." The ANC has remained largely silent since the arrest was announced, but insiders described chaos and fear within Latuli House. Several senior members reportedly received emergency calls summoning them to a closed-door meeting. "They are panicking," one insider revealed. "If France hands over proof of who funded the killing, it's game over for some of them." President Ramaphosa's spokesperson issued a brief statement saying the government would cooperate fully with French authorities, but warned against speculation until facts are confirmed. Yet, political observers note that silence from the top may not be enough to calm public anger this time. Meanwhile, opposition parties are pushing for Parliament to launch its own independent investigation, with calls growing louder for international oversight to ensure the case isn't buried. The arrested suspect remains in French custody as prosecutors finalize